Shalom. All praise, honor, and glory is due unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Machakadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations to the elect of the nation of Israel. The true Hebrew Israelites are the so-called Negroes, so-called Hispanics, so-called Native Americans, as well as you Israelite foreigners who may look like the other nations but believe in this truth in the names Yahweh and Yahweh Shai. This is a video lesson, and I do want to touch on more topics like World War III and the MOTB and Jacob's Trouble and things of that. The hell that's about to hit the world in Babylon the Great. But I saw this video when I automatically I want to make a, don't remember exactly what I thought, but I want to make a lesson on it, and so I'm just gonna play it for about 5 minutes. If you want to skip through, then skip through. But I think it'll hopefully be edifying. And I'll probably maybe you probably just want to watch through it because I'll probably hit scriptures while going through the video. So I think the brothers say fair use. Hopefully you can hear it. I'll put the link in the description box, Lord willing.
The story of the Villa Victoria projects in Boston's South End, the city's most legendary Latino neighborhood.
And the Latinos are Israelites.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back. So as I sat there and celebrated St. Patrick's Day with my family last weekend, I began to think about how Boston and Massachusetts has changed throughout my lifetime. I talk about the physical landscape a lot, like urban renewal of the 1960s and gentrification in the new millennium, but the people of the city and state have also changed a lot, especially since the turn of the 2000s. Boston, which has always had a very strong Irish identity, is rapidly changing in appearance. The largest new group and fastest growing population demographic in the entire Bay State are now Latinos. In the last census I looked at, it said Latinos make up about 21% of Boston's total population, which translates to roughly 1 out of 5 Bostonians. That's a very large number, but in my opinion that's a gross underestimation. I feel like the actual number is much higher. With more and more Latinos settling in the Bay State every year, it's only a matter of time before the minority group will become the largest demographic in the whole state. Now Latinos live in almost every neighborhood in Boston, but of course, like everything else, I wanted to know the history. Who were the first Latinos in Boston, when did they come, and where was their first stronghold? The first Latinos to move into the Bay State and Mass were mostly Puerto Ricans with some Cubans mixed in.
So Puerto Ricans is a tribe of Ephraim. See the 12 tribe sign? And so
Well, they began to move up into the Connecticut River Valley after WW2 in the late 1940s. They are mostly brought to Massachusetts by farm owners with the prospects of working seasonal agricultural jobs on the many farms in the western part of the state and along the Connecticut border. When the seasonal agricultural work ran out, many of the newcomers went to industrial centers looking for work in factories or to large cities to work in the service sectors at hotels or restaurants. This is why there's always been a large Hispanic population out in the Springfield area, and why still to this day the city of Holyoke has a very strong Puerto Rican identity. Many of the laid-off agricultural workers moved to that particular city to work in their paper mills. But many of the newly arrived Puerto Ricans ended up finding their way to Boston, which is of course Massachusetts' biggest city after the agricultural work was finished. Many of the factory jobs were unreliable, and Boston had an abundance of service jobs. By the early 1900s, Boston's wealthy had abandoned the city's South End and moved to the Back Bay and Beacon Hill and other lofty areas. The South End neighborhood became one of the most diverse and affordable neighborhoods to live in the whole city. By the late 1940s, the South End was a melting pot. There were, of course, a few Italian and Irish streets, which were the two largest population groups in the city, but there was also a big Greek population. Also,
So listen to what he said there. He said the melting pot. Now, before I continue on, I'm going to cover that point. You look up America, the melting pot, which is also known as Babylon in the scriptures, Egypt or Edom. It reads in the United States, is from Wikipedia. In the United States, the term is often used to describe the cultural integration of immigrants to the country. Why is America referred to as the melting pot? The United States is often depicted as a melting pot in which diverse cultures and ethnicities come together to form the rich fabric of our nation. Got a quote down here. Don't really care about that quote. Don't need that. So you get the point. America's the melting pot. You got all these different nations here in Babylon the Great, like he Mandler said in the video. This is Jeremiah chapter 51, verse 13. O thou that dwellest upon many waters, abundant in shutters. Let me get the scripture first. Revelation chapter 17 and verse 15. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. So we read here, O thou that dwellest upon many waters. Babylon is this great melting pot. We got all the nations here. Abundant in shutters, thine end is come, in the measure of thy covetousness. Now we go to Revelation 17 verse 1. And there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. So America is the great whore, Babylon. And the waters, we read in verse 15, it said the peoples, and so on. And America is a great melting pot. That's one way we know America is Babylon the Great. In verse 5, it tells you, and upon her forehead was a name read, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Same Babylon as Jeremiah 50, Jeremiah 51, Isaiah 13, Revelation 18. So let's go back to the video.
Middle East. By the late 1900s, Boston's wealthy had abandoned the city's South End and moved to the Back Bay and Beacon Hill and other lofty areas. The South End neighborhood became one of the most diverse and affordable neighborhoods to live in the whole city. By the late 1940s, the South End was a melting pot. There were, of course, a few Italian and Irish streets, which were the two largest population groups in the city, but there was also a big Greek population. Also Middle Eastern, mostly Syrian and Lebanese, Eastern European like Polish, Ukrainian, Lithuanian, Latvian, and the South End was one of the first major black neighborhoods in Boston. And that's before
There's the tribe of Judah.
The community moved a little bit further south and centralized in the lower Roxbury by the 1950s. There was also a small community of Swedes, which I actually just learned about when I made that video about the Campbell brothers. I thought that was interesting. I've never heard of a Scandinavian population in Boston or even a Lutheran church in the city. And of course, there was just plain old non ethnic whites who lived in America for generations already and were affectionately known
Those are the
as
Edomites.
Yankees. People really seemed to like when I dove into the history
Pretty sure um Babe Ruth is Israelite.
of Boston's black population in that Campbell Brothers video. Now, I'm not even trying to disguise it in this video with mob stuff, so I'm just going to give you the history straight up. We'll see how it goes. But this is what the South End looked like when the first Latinos came to Boston and settled in the neighborhood. The South End is such a cool area, and it really doesn't get talked about enough, in my opinion. The South End has classic architecture, and there's just rows and rows of those beautiful brownstones. When I was a kid, I thought they were so cool. I always wanted to live in one. I think it's because of the Cosby Show. I love the overhead pictures of the South End streets, too, lined with those beautiful old buildings. It makes Boston so unique. For a city that's had a reputation of being very segregated and insular, the South End had a vibrant, diverse neighborhood. Different ethnic groups and races lived in close proximity to one another and coexisted in relative harmony. The South End is almost like a little version of the Lower East Side or parts of Harlem that were Italians, Puerto Ricans, and African Americans all lived in close proximity together. I absolutely love different cultures and learning about them, so naturally melting pot neighborhoods like Boston's South End in the 20th century are incredibly interesting to me. There's four main streets that
Okay, so you get the point. Now I want to focus on the next point. The main point of the lesson is the tribe of Ephraim, the so-called Puerto Ricans. Which, let me go back to that part in the video, just for because it says Boston's first Latino
It's
neighborhood
only a matter of time
as
before the minority
the
group will
title of
become
the
the
lesson.
largest demographic in the whole state. Now Latinos live in almost every neighborhood in Boston, but of course, like everything else, I wanted to know the history. Who were the first Latinos in Boston? When did they come? And where was their first stronghold? The first Latinos to move into the Bay State and Mass were mostly Puerto Ricans with some Cubans mixed in as well. They began to move up into the Connecticut River Valley after WW2 in the late 1940s. They are mostly brought to Massachusetts by farm owners.
Okay, so Puerto Ricans coming to America. So there's enough on the video on. This is the book of Genesis, chapter 49. And I'll start at verse 1 and then skip down to the point. And Jacob called unto his sons and said, Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that what shall befall you in the last days. And Jacob was a prophet. Gather yourselves together, and hear, ye sons of Jacob, and hearken unto Israel your father. The same man, Jacob and Israel. So this is one way we can identify each tribe. And we go to verse 22. Joseph, this is talking about the Ephraimites, the so-called Puerto Ricans, which is one of the sons of Joseph. Joseph is a fruitful bow, talking about the Ephraimites, so-called Puerto Ricans. Even a fruitful bow by a well. And it says a well has to do with water. Puerto Rico, there's water in tropical conditions, whose branches run over the wall. And what does it mean, whose branches run over the wall? It means the so-called Puerto Ricans, the Ephraimites, they go from Puerto Rico and they come to America. So that's what you see. Joseph is a fruitful bow, even a fruitful bow by a well, whose branches run over the wall. The archers, talking about Esau, the so-called white man, the Edomites, have sorely grieved him and shot at him and hated him. So that's basically what we saw in this video was the so-called Puerto Ricans coming to America. This is the book of Hosea, chapter 9, verse 13. And it says, Hear, ye sons of Jacob, and hearken unto Israel your father. The same man, Jacob and Israel. So this is one way we can identify each tribe. This is the book of Hosea, chapter 9, verse 13. Ephraim, as I saw Tyrus, is planted in a pleasant place, the island of Puerto Rico. But Ephraim shall bring forth his children to the murderer. So this scripture goes hand in hand with that Genesis 49 and 22. Joseph is a fruitful bow, even a fruitful bow by a well, whose branches run over the wall. So Hosea 9 and 13 again. Ephraim, as I saw Tyrus, is planted in a pleasant place, but Ephraim shall bring forth his children to the murderer. And Esau, again, the so-called white man, is the murderer. Let's look up Puerto Rico. Here's a map. And so this is the book of 2nd Ezra chapter 13. And verse 40, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmanassar the king of Assyria led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. But they took this, so it's talking about the so-called Hispanic and Native American tribes of the Israelites, of the 12 tribes. But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go into a further country where never mankind dwelt. And it says when it goes into a further country where never mankind dwelt, that's when the tribes came over to the Western Hemisphere, into the Americas. And in Puerto Rico, of course, Esau is going to say it's fake, but "800 ancient stones with Hebrew writing in Puerto Rico authenticated." So the Puerto Ricans are Ephraim, or Israelites. You had Hebrew stones in other parts of America, in the Americas as well. I don't know the names. So when Esau, if he says it's fake, we know it's true. There are Hebrew stones in other parts. But based on the scriptures, we know that it's true anyways. But the scriptures back this up. And 12,000 of the Ephraimites are the 144,000. This is Revelation chapter 7. And it tells you how the breakdown of 12,000 out of each 12 tribes of Israel. But the point I want to touch on is verse 8. And of the tribe of Zebulun were sealed 12,000, and of the tribe of Joseph were sealed 12,000. It's talking about the Ephraimites, 12,000 Ephraimites of the 144,000. So it's synonymous with Ephraim right here. Of the tribe of Benjamin were sealed 12,000. Because you see, Manasseh is up here in verse 6. That was also a son of Joseph. So it only makes sense this is talking about Ephraim. Now we go to Ezekiel chapter 37. Well, you know what, first I want to go to Jeremiah chapter 3. In verse 14, turn, O backsliding children, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashmioshai, for I am married unto you. And I will take you one of a city and two of a family, and I will bring you to Zion. And I will give you pastors according to my heart, which are the prophets, great millstone, which shall feed you with knowledge and understanding. The point is at verse 18, in those days the house of Judah shall walk with the house of Israel, and they shall come together out of the land of the north to the land that I have given for an inheritance unto your fathers. So all the 12 tribes are in Babylon the Great. And so we read how Ephraim, specifically the tribe of Ephraim, would come to America. The branches go over the wall. He shall bring forth his children. We also read the scripture that goes with it. He shall bring forth his children to the murderer. And we read how all the Hispanic and Native American tribes, including Ephraim, came to the Western Hemisphere, where they would eventually go to America, to Babylon the Great, where all the 12 tribes are, where the pastors would be mainly part of the 144,000 singing the new song of the 12,000 of the 12 tribes of Israel out on the streets and on the internet. And the elect of the tribes would wake up, and we go out and we teach with the 12 tribes song, as it says in Ezekiel 37. And our people can look at it and see their true biblical nationality, which is the truth. This is Ezekiel chapter 37. In verse 16, moreover, thou son of man, take thee one stick, which is a plank, and write upon it, for Judah and for the children of Israel his companions. Then take another stick, and write upon it for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, and for all the house of Israel his companions. So that's all the 12 tribes of both kingdoms on one plank. And so it's mandatory that when the brothers teach on the street, to teach with the 12 tribes song. And join them one to another and into one stick, and they shall become one in thine hand. And when the children of thy people shall speak unto thee, saying, wilt thou not show us what thou meanest by these? And so it's very important, this 12 tribes sign, it also shows you that the Most High is only dealing with the Israelites. We read about the valley, which is Babylon the Great, and the dry bones, Israelites, and the breath, which is the wisdom. And then we'll be brought back to our own land. Ezekiel 37 is an excellent chapter. It's a great chapter. So that valley, bring out the scripture, Ezekiel 37 verse 1. The hand of the Lord Yahweh Bashmioshai was upon me, and carried me out in the spirit of the Lord Yahweh Bashmioshai, and set me down in the midst of the valley which was full of bones. This valley is the same as the whore that sitteth upon many waters, and you had a great melting pot. We read about in Revelation 17 and Jeremiah 51. It's known as spiritual Sodom of Egypt. The Edomites rule here, the place of our captivity. The place that will be destroyed by nuclear missiles in World War III, or in the midst of World War III. And so the valley's a low land. America has low morals. But I'm not going to break down the whole thing. But the Israelites would be here of all the 12 tribes, both kingdoms in the last days. We saw the tribe. Well, let me bring up some more scriptures, and almost done. This is Hosea chapter 7, verse 8. Ephraim, he hath mixed himself among the people. Again, Ephraim is the so-called Puerto Ricans. Ephraim is a cake not turned. And so you have dark-skinned. It said a cake not turned because you have dark-skinned Ephraimites or so-called Puerto Ricans, and you have light-skinned Ephraimites, so-called Puerto Ricans, which that's the cake not turned. One side light, one side dark. Which you can, it already makes sense. I'll try to make one more point. I don't know what chapter it's in. See if it loads. This is Hosea chapter 9. Start of verse 11. As for Ephraim, their glory shall fly away like a bird from the birth, and from the womb, and from the conception. Though they bring up their children, yet will I bereave them, that there shall not be a man left. Yea, woe also to them when I depart from them. Oh, so we're already in here. Ephraim, as I saw Tyrus, is planted in a pleasant place, Puerto Rico. But Ephraim shall bring forth his children to the murderer. And again, this goes with the Genesis 49. Joseph is a fruitful bow, even a fruitful bow by a well, and his branches go over the wall. Give them, O Lord Yahweh Shai, what wilt thou give? Give them a miscarrying womb and dry breasts. Now this is spiritual because where were the first birth control tests on? The first large-scale human trial of the birth control pill took place in Puerto Rico in 1955. And what do we read here? Give them, O Lord Yahweh Shai, what wilt thou give? Give them a miscarrying womb and dry breasts. So see the first birth control pill tested on human trials on Puerto Ricans, this tribe of Ephraim. And so, with that, I hope that was edifying. I don't think I have any other scriptures. So-called Halalima Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai Ba'Shem Kokodash. Double honors to elders and apostles, great millstone who were well. Shalom to the elect.